On this episode, we'll discuss creative ways to keep your church engaged during summer. Well, hey there, and welcome to another episode of the Church Leadership Lab podcast, the show that is dedicated to inspiring leaders and empowering healthy churches. I'm Kendall Connor, and I'm joined by my co host, Jessica Moore. Hey there, Jess. How are you today?
Hello, Kendall. I'm good. It's warm and sunny in Tulsa today. It's perfect
Nice.
weather.
Yeah, it's great to have you back. I know you've been doing some traveling. It's good to have you back on the
Yes.
show. We missed having you on here.
Yes, it's good to be back on a routine.
Yeah.
And, it's summer. It's kind of a routine, but it's the new
Right.
normal,
The new
getting used
norm.
to it. Yes, exactly.
Well, it's great that we get to have this episode today because we get to change things up from our traditional interviews that we do, and we get to talk about summer. We get to talk about some
Mhm.
creative ways that we can keep your church engaged during the summertime. And it kind of makes me wonder, on the topic of summer, what would you say are some of your favorite parts of the season?
Mm. Well, summer's my favorite season. We lead with that. So there's many things that I love. Just having grown up in South Florida, this is like the most home, time of the year for
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
And I actually genuinely love having my kids home. I mean, work's trickier for sure, but they're big kids, so it's fun. I feel like I actually
yeah.
like have coworkers in my remote job. And our family does a lot of like outdoor stuff. So we go to creeks a lot. So again, growing up in
Very
Florida,
cool.
love the beach. We don't have the beach here in Tulsa.
Yeah.
So we go to like creeks and lakes and we've got some paddle boards. So yeah, outdoor activities are the way for the Moore family. We're very happy in nature.
Cool. We love nature as well, and it's funny that you bring up the creek getting out in the water because something that we're trying for the very first time this weekend actually is my wife and I we're going to go tubing in a river that's close to us. I've never done
Yes.
that. I've never been a
So
part of it,
fun. Yeah, it's
so
so
we don't know
fun.
what to expect.
We did that a few years ago. We went with some friends to a lake around here, and
Yeah,
I hadn't actually, I mean, we floated the river in like a traditional like raft,
yeah,
but
yeah,
tubing is next level, man. It's so fun.
yeah.
But if you're done, buckle up, Buttercup. You just got to float your
You
way
just
to
got to
the
float
rest.
to where
Yes,
where you're
to
going.
the end. Yes, exactly. But it's so fun. I mean, we had a blast. So, yeah, good luck.
Yeah,
Godspeed.
I can't wait. Yeah, that'll have to be a follow-up, topic that we bring up
Yeah.
later in the summer maybe.
Stay tuned, folks. We're going to tell you how Kendall fared the river on a
Yes,
tube.
yes, I guarantee it's gonna be an experience, I'm sure, but we're really looking forward to but we love getting out of nature too. We love, like, the
Mhm.
camping, and our family has a pontoon boat. We have a lake that's not too far
So
from us, so, yeah, we
fun.
love getting out there, and
I love
our
it.
family loves, baseball games and things like that, so it's a good season for sure.
Yeah. It's the best. It's the best.
It's the best. So, we know because of all of these fun things, right? The
Mhm.
reality for churches is that it's an interesting season for ministry, right? You
Yeah.
know, so many different people are going to be away. They're going to be doing their vacations, and so I figured the need for this topic was pretty important, right?
Mhm.
How you can keep your congregation, your church community engaged throughout the summer, because we know that it's a weird in between season. We know that families are traveling and volunteers, they're getting a well deserved break, right? And we
Mhm.
know that
Yep.
it's possible, if we're being real, that attendance can dip. There's a term that I've heard. Maybe you've heard this, Jesse. You ever heard people talk about the summer slump for
Boy, have
churches?
I. Yes. Yes. And then just another little product plug or another little content plug. We just did a webinar similar to this. It was a little bit more focused on how to digitally engage your congregation.
Yes.
But yeah, summer slump is super real. In fact, studies show that it's like up to 20% or more
Wow.
of attendance and giving is impacted. So it's a real
It's a
problem.
real
It's a
thing.
real problem, opportunity, however you want to see it. We're going to
Yes.
make it an opportunity today.
That's right. Well, and I'm glad that you're just coming off the heels of that webinar, and so this topic is kind of fresh on your brain.
Yeah.
Here's my encouragement to all of our listeners today: is that even though it may be a little bit different in this season, summer doesn't have to be a setback. It can be a
Mhm.
season if you lean into it and you apply these things that can lean into the strengths, the positive things of the season. I believe summer can be a time for connection. It can be a time for creativity. and community. And so that's the things that we want to talk about today. We'll be sharing a list of some creative and I'll say it easy to implement ways to keep
Mhm.
your church family connected and spiritually growing all summer
Yes.
long.
Love it.
So before we really jump into these things, I'd like to encourage all of our listeners, please hit that follow button wherever you enjoying our show. We're putting out so many resources to help you as you're serving in your community to make your ministry jobs easier so that you can focus on the things that matter most. And so hit that follow button so you do not miss a thing. All right. So, creative ways to keep your church engaged during summer. Number one, the first idea we want to share with you is to create a summer themed message series.
Yep.
And this is something that I feel like is not only an easy thing to do,
Mhm.
right? But it also makes it really fun. Would you agree with that, Jess?
Yeah, our church has done the Psalms, in the summer, and I think too, you have a fixed number of weeks, so
Yes.
if you can lean into that too, there's a little bit of like there's some guardrails there on how long you can dive into this topic and yeah, a ton of super practical application. I think it's a great opportunity.
Yes. For some of our listeners today, at your church, you may lean into series very regularly for your sermons, and that may be something you do all the time. Or you may be on the opposite side, and it's not something that you have tried, or maybe you've
Mhm.
tried it only a handful of times. What I'd say I'd love about a summer theme message series is that you can keep it somewhat light in the theming, right?
Mhm.
It doesn't necessarily have to be locked into one dedicated topic, but you can have some fun with it. You mentioned the Psalms,
Mhm.
a series that we've done in our own church is Summer in the Psalms. And it's
Mhm.
just kind of, it makes it fun and, that gives you your topic. But there are some other ideas that I jotted down too that I've seen. One that I really loved is called Campfire Stories. Again, it kind of leans into that nature
Yes.
side that we love, but I saw with that series that each week they took time to look at some of the parables. It
Mm,
was a time where they looked at some of the Old Testament stories that
yeah.
really popular, such as David and Goliath and things like that. Or I also saw a church with that theming. It was a time to share testimonies, which is just a really cool
Ooh,
way to
I
build
love that.
in those stories. Um,
Yeah, that's great.
I love it. It's creative, right? I've seen
Mhm.
other churches, they will just do something as easy as summer at their church name, right?
Sure,
And,
sure.
it opens it up for there to be different kind of things. And one other thing idea that I want to share with you is I saw a church that did summer series called Summer Voices, and they used that as an opportunity to invite different speakers, maybe some of the other ministry leaders that are in your church that maybe don't always have the opportunity to speak on a Sunday
Mm,
morning, or maybe
what a good
outside
idea.
visiting speakers. But
Yep,
they use that as a chance just to have different voices and give them away because we know a lot of lead pastors will take a sabbatical during this
as they
season.
should. Yes.
Yeah, gotta get that rest in. That
Yep.
definitely makes sense. We wanna make sure that our leaders get to stay or have that chance to recharge and get ready for the fall ministry season, and so that was
Mhm.
a clever way, I thought, to get some different voices on stage and
Yep.
let it not just be an afterthought, but really highlight it and celebrate it.
Absolutely. I think that's a brilliant idea. I think there's so much value in bringing in additional faces, right? I think
Mhm.
sometimes it's a slippery slope to have your church attached to just one really important person.
Sure.
So bringing in additional, voices for validation and building up your community and allowing people to identify with, somebody new on stage. I think that's such a great cultural
Yes.
decision, but also practical decision, as you said, with people wanting to travel and
Right.
then, if you can get ahead of that in your planning, because we're all excellent at planning ahead, um, folks will know when they won't need to be teaching and they can vacation
Yes.
accordingly or travel accordingly. So yeah,
That
great
makes that
idea.
makes a lot of sense, and, it's, again, some of those are just really easy to put, to put that into play, to put those into action. It works really well. All right,
Yep. Love it.
the next tip that we wanna give, idea, is, send a weekly email newsletter, here's the thing, that includes resources.
Yep.
Here's the thing, email, maybe that doesn't get, our listeners super excited today. They're like, "We don't wanna hear about email," but I'm that communications guy that has, served in that role in churches, and I can tell you that, you can provide a lot of value in
Mhm.
sending an email that goes out to all of your people who attend. Because here's the reality is that it can fill in those gaps when people are away, right?
Yep.
They
Yeah.
may not have the opportunity to be there on a Sunday morning. They may be traveling, whatever it may be. Having something that's consistent and can go out to them and they're and right on their phone, right? They're going to be on their phone whether they're at the beach or wherever they are, they're going to be on that device. And so things that I would encourage you to include would be you're going to want to make sure that you're telling them about everything that you have coming up, right?
Yeah.
That's a given, right?
Yep, yep, yep. Yeah, upcoming events is huge. I think, uh and this shouldn't be your primary means of communication, obviously. But with social media, everything's louder right now during the summer. There's so many events going on, especially if you live somewhere where it's like it gets cold in the winter. I
Yeah.
feel like there is more to do right now for us in Tulsa than there is any other time of the year, maybe minus the Christmas season, right? But there's a lot of noise. So yes, putting all of your stuff on social media, make sure you're pushing notifications through your mobile app, et cetera, et cetera. But a newsletter where it's just one concise place, like I just know that I can count on
Yes.
Mondays, I'm going to get a recap of what happened this weekend and what I can be looking for next week. And it's just
Huge.
easy. It's easy, easy button for mom. Um, you know, I specifically for kid events, I will say my kids, like I said earlier, are older, but if you've got little kids and you're a mom and it's summer, you're looking for something to do with your kids. And so
Yes.
if you can kind of, and we'll talk about events a little further down the line, but I think if you can have something planned and moms know, like this is the mom section, maybe you've got kids resources, maybe you've
Right.
got upcoming kid events, but like if nothing else, I'd be scrolling to that section and be like, "What can I do with my kids this weekend
Yes.
or this week?"
Other great ideas that I've seen that have been implemented in these emails have been including some kind of devotional. Think if you're trying to keep people engaged and spiritually
Yes.
growing during the summer, whether or not they are there in person or not,
Mhm. Mhm.
including some kind of devotional or links to some kind of Bible reading plan. We know that there's so many resources out there for that from
Yeah.
YouVersion and all of these different places. Other
Mhm.
things could be including clips from your sermon that week or a
Yeah.
recap. We know how easy it is to take your message and throw it into Chat GPT or whatever it may
Mhm.
be and say, "Hey, can you give me a quick recap that we can include in our email?" Boom,
Yep.
just
Yep.
like that. It's
So
that's
easy.
so easy these days. Or maybe just a things you missed this Sunday type email or some kind of
Sure.
Sunday recap. And
Yep.
then one final thing that I'll say that I have personally done in our own church's email that has just been a huge hit is we have a photographer that goes around on Sundays or a
Mm.
couple of different photographers at different times. And we're always trying to take photos to celebrate what's going on in our church.
Yeah, I love that.
The A great tip is including a couple photos from that Sunday down in the bottom of that email. My trick on that, my hack, Jess, is that I want them to see everything that's in the email, and they have to scroll down to
That's
get to
right.
that consistent photo
That's
section.
right.
And so
So smart,
that's a
Kendall.
little hack right there.
Yes, I love it. Let me put one more plug in for kids. I've got
Yes.
kids on the brain today. We also have through one of our platforms, we've got incredible kids curriculum.
Mm.
And so if you're about to travel and you can include this in the newsletter, like again, mom section, if you want to do it. I don't know. I just got real focused on that right now, but
I'm here
go with
for
me
it.
here. We do have these amazing kids curriculums that you can do. So they come with a video,
Yes.
they come with a coloring page or some sort of activity. And so that's another easy one. So if you're
Genius.
adding video sermon clips,
Yes.
hopefully your kids church has a either corresponding or some sort of curriculum that they're working through
Yes.
over the summer as well. And so you can include whatever the curriculum was for kiddos in there as well. And when you're waiting in line to get into the water park or the theme park or whatever, and they're, Mom, give me your phone. Sure, you can watch this Jesus video while
There
you
you go.
wait. So don't miss the
That's great.
opportunity to share the kids stuff as well in that
I love
newsletter.
that. I love that. And our family, we've used those coloring sheets and those Bible activity sheets from our platform. And so I
Hmm.
know that they're awesome. That's going to be great. All right, number 3, the next tip that we want to give you, next idea is let summer small groups. And I love the summer. sometimes I feel like small groups can be like a secondary thing or just
Sure.
like something that you don't really think about a lot in the summertime. We know that they can be big in the fall, big in the spring,
Yeah.
but something that I've been able to implement in our own church is being able to have those a shorter small group semester that includes in those summer months. Here's the
Mhm.
thing: we know because folks are traveling that it looks a little bit different. Let's be
Yeah.
honest about it, right? It does look a little
Flexibility.
bit different. You got to
Mhm.
be flexible, but there's also some different things that you can do to make them extra fun, to make them practical in the summertime. A couple of ideas that I wrote down to share with that is that sometimes one thing that I've done in my own small group is to do like a book club type deal
Mhm.
in the
Mhm.
summer. So that whether you're are able to attend the group that meeting or not, you know, hey, we're reading this book together. You can still
Right.
make time wherever you are. Again, you're on the beach, you've got that book with you, right? You can go through that yourself and stay growing spiritually over the summer.
Mhm.
The other
Mhm.
thing that I've done in my own small group is provide an online option. And so
Yeah.
what we would do during the summer is, okay, maybe you can't attend in person, you can't come over to the house or attend that Bible study or whatever it may be, but simply jumping on a Zoom call or FaceTime, whatever it may be, and having that time that you can connect. All right, every Friday morning we're going to have this 1 hour that we get together like this. And again, that leans into the flexibility. I have a great memory, Jess, of being like we were up in the mountains somewhere, and I'm not kidding. I was up early one of those mornings out on the deck of the house we were staying at, and I was holding my phone, leading that small group. And it
Yeah.
was just fun, right? We were
Yeah. Well, and it changes things up. You're not in your normal routine. Hopefully, if you're on
yes.
vacation, you're not bogged down by like dishes, laundry, with just life stuff. And
Hmm.
so if you're away, you can connect in a much more intentional way. To your point, my
Yes.
goodness, that view being outside, like that whole scenario, I'd be like, Jesus is actually with me
Jesus.
right now.
Yes.
He's on this deck with me, and we're just having coffee because that to me is the best place, for me to connect. So
Sure.
I agree. I agree. Don't shy away from it. Just because people are away doesn't mean they can't engage in a way that
Yes.
they, could potentially even engage more deeply. So I love that. What a
Yes.
great reminder.
I think it's all about being flexible and being open. One other idea, and in terms of small groups that I want to make sure that we cover is something that we've done is having activities or like a family outing small
Hmm.
group or a date night group that you can sprinkle in, and maybe you do one per month in the summer, and you
Yeah.
just do two or three of these. But
Easy. Yep.
it gets people together, and you say, okay, we know we can't meet every week right now, but on these dates during the summer we're going to be at the baseball game, or
Right.
we're going to do a movie, or we're going to do a putt putt or mini golf, whatever, whatever it is, just getting some ideas that people can get out and get around other
Mm.
believers. It makes a big difference.
Just those little touch points, or even, one of the small groups that our church has is, I mean, it's a small group. They do community or not, they do engage as a community in addition to this, but the structure of it, the format of it is it's these Saturday morning flag football teams, and they're,
Yes.
adult men. It's a men only
Yeah.
league, and you're 18 and up, but these dudes love it. Like they're
Yes.
there, right? So
Yeah.
like my 19-year-old nephew, as soon as he was able to get on this league, he was like, I'm
Yes.
there. But it opens up connection no matter what. So just those touch points throughout the summer, even if you're not meeting every week to like dig into the word and it's this,
Yes.
emotional thing that we're walking through together. No, it doesn't have to be that way, especially with kiddos. If normally your normal small group is operating in like it's the adults and it's
Correct.
more of a study, more serious. This is actually what a cool way to show other facets of your life to these people
Yes.
that, have historically just been a part of this piece of your life. So, yeah, I think
I've got
activities,
I've
all
got to
sorts of
piggyback
fellowship.
off of that because we do softball, we
Mhm.
do we do a kickball league, and
Yeah.
I mean, folks that participate in this, they are all in.
Mhm. Yeah,
They're
it's
all in,
fun.
but there's those other times too because we've done a volleyball game on a certain night, right?
Mhm.
And it's open to everybody, and that's an
Yeah,
easy one that folks can jump into, and it's not a
totally.
league, right? But it's one
Totally.
day you could come to cornhole, pickleball,
Mhm.
whatever it may be. And again, it's not going deep into a Bible study in that, but we open in prayer. We take
Yeah.
those prayer requests. We spend those times. We share a devotion, and it
Yeah.
makes a big deal. And again, it's that connection that's so
You know
important.
those conversations are happening somewhere
Yes.
amongst the people. If you get
Yes.
them together, people are gonna connect and the Holy Spirit will work, so, yeah, I love it.
All right, the next tip, and Jess, you kinda alluded to this, it's use social media to keep the
Mhm,
conversation going.
mhm.
We know that social media is a big part of so many people's lives, right? They're, opening up their phones, several times throughout the day, throughout the evening, and they're seeing, different content. Well, there's no shortage of content out there. Here's the thing is that, as churches, we can be a part of that conversation. We can be a part of
Yes.
what's in their feed and provide that encouragement and inspiration that's so, so needed because we know
Mhm.
how much junk, let's be real, right,
Yeah.
is out
Oh,
there in
yeah.
folks' feed.
Oh, yeah.
And so getting to continue the conversation from Sundays and so that it's not just church isn't just 1 hour during the week. You get to engage
Mhm.
them all throughout Monday through Saturday.
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
It is a big deal. We talked about this a little bit more in depth on the webinar, so if you're interested in hearing more about this,
Yeah, we're
definitely
going to link
listen to
that
that.
up.
But listen, we have resources here, and I was kind of, bragging on our media because I don't think I even realized this until I got in there to build out the content for the webinar deck. But you can search within the library of media that we offer at Ministry Brands by social media, so that's an obvious category. But then within that you can also kind of dig in, and there's an engagement category within there, so then you can say, like, I want an Instagram story format graphic, so it's going to already be sized for you,
Yes.
and I want it about engagement. And so I found so many amazing graphics in there. There was like, how can we pray for you? So part of the social media is, yes, you're using that as a way to communicate stuff
Yes.
out. But what's cool is if you're using the right graphics, the right prompts, and the right tools that are in within those, social media platforms. Instagram's a lot more friendly with this than the other platforms, but you can actually invite people to talk back, right? So
Yes.
you can have them engage back with you. Um, and so that's a way to stay connected for sure. If you wanted to, I mean, you could link prayer
100%.
request forms and
Yes.
all sorts of stuff. But yeah, I think social media is twofold, and you could miss it. You could miss an opportunity to receive back from your congregation during this summer if you're not careful. You're too passive with it.
Yes, I love, that you mentioned, doing the interactive kinda questions and doing those kind of you can do polls, you can do questions and
Mhm.
things like that just to get people talking, and
Right.
again, something that I think is so valuable is that you have people in your church, they see other people they're in their community with, right,
Right.
engaging on this. It just makes you feel like you're a part of something. It
Right.
reminds you of that church family that's happening
Yes.
there, and you
Yes.
can also share spiritual things, right? Share scriptures that you shared on Sunday morning during your sermon. You can share these
100%.
different things to kind of keep the conversation going and to help people grow throughout the summer and again feel connected. Such good
Mhm.
stuff.
Same pictures you put in your newsletter too. People love to see themselves on social
100%.
media.
And it just reminds that I'm a part of this
Yeah.
community. It gives that sense of FOMO, like, I don't wanna
Yeah.
miss out on being there.
Exactly.
This
Yeah.
okay, we're not on vacation this week. I wanna make sure that I get to be there and I'm a part of it. So I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. So good.
The next tip that I wanna share, and I think all of our listeners probably knew this was coming at some point, is to just host those events, those outreach, those
Mhm.
community events. There's a lot
Mhm.
of opportunity during summer, Jess. Would you
Mhm.
agree with that?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, for one, again, Oklahoma here, the weather is just not, it's not great for hosting events, or at least outdoor events. I mean, we have events within our church, but outdoor events, I mean, you can do concerts, you can do movie nights, you
Yes.
can do, you know, worship nights, whatever it is. Taking it outdoors is just fun. It changes the dynamic. It makes it less pressure, I think,
Yes.
too. I don't know why I'm thinking about kids. Probably because my niece and nephew are here and they're younger. But, being outside, mom and dad can just like breathe. They can be
Yes.
chaotic. They can be wild. They can, we're here. We know kids are coming. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a relaxed environment. I think it's great.
Well, and the summertime, one of the most popular things that churches do, is Vacation Bible School, that
Well,
VBS.
yeah. Yep. Yep. Yep.
And the thing about that is, I don't know where our listeners are today in that journey on that, but for our church, We have never done a VBS. We've never done that. There are a lot of churches in our community that have, and I
Mhm.
mean, they are rock stars at
Right.
doing that. For us, we knew that this particular summer, we wanted to do something. We wanted to kind of take a step forward, but we knew that we weren't prepared to do like a
Mm,
full week or that. We just were not ready for that yet. And so,
right.
something I'd share, it's an idea that we're trying is doing a 1 day kids camp, and so that kinda lets us test the waters, right? And
Sure.
and and make
Yeah.
and plan it, and, plan 1 day around a Saturday, or I forget which day it is.
Mhm.
Um, but being able to do that 1 day, and so we're trying that, and that's a simple way to kinda, test the waters, and jump into that.
Yeah.
And then also along with that, we're doing a community movie night, a big outdoor. We got the big blow up
So fun.
screen, and we got
Yes.
the projector and all of that stuff. We'll do the popcorn as just a way to serve the community. And again,
Right.
maybe the parents can just relax, get that lawn chair
Mhm.
out, and just. But
Mhm.
it gives a great introduction to our church for our community that's around us, right?
Yeah, I love it. And again, like you said, with what did we just talk about? But praying beforehand. Oh, the small groups. But
Yes.
same thing with this with these outdoor events. I mean, if you can be real intentional with the time as soon as people are there, everyone's settled right before you start that movie.
Yes.
Take a minute to just, why are you there? Why do you exist as a church or a ministry? What is your mission? How can you be available to families in the area and kind of share? It's more than a movie night. It's an opportunity,
That's
like you
right.
said, to highlight like how can we love you? This is what we do. This is why we exist. And
Yes.
if you need XYZ, see Kendall in the
Yeah.
back. He's got everything you could possibly
Got all
need.
the answers for you. I love that, and, they say it takes so many touch points for people hearing about your church before
Right.
they will really take that step, and that's just another way to do it. Whatever event you do, I think it's a great way to get out and get the word out in your community that there's a church right there that cares for this city.
And before we move on,
Yeah.
how should we tell people about these events, Kendall? What
Well,
are some
there's
good ways? We
that
talked about
that's
social
that's
media.
that's a great point. Social media is such a big deal, and hey, for that outdoor movie night or that kids 1 day camp or all those different things, you can create those Facebook events.
Yeah.
We know that
Yes,
spreading the word
so
to your
helpful.
own email list is going to be such a big deal.
Newsletters.
And then there's so many ways to get the word out. Listen, we've printed out 100 flyers and put them
Yes.
all over the community and everywhere that they have where people bring their kids. So like put them up at the YMCA, put them up
Yeah.
at the swim club, put them up all
Yep.
the different places that you can.
Yeah.
And then those invite cards, come on, that having your own people inviting their
Yes.
friends is such a big deal.
That's what I was hoping you'd say is the paper. We talked about
Yes.
social media, we talked about the newsletters, but there's something really powerful about getting like a mailer in the mail
Yes.
advertising a free event that's at a church. It feels safe. It feels inviting. It feels like, oh,
Yes.
thank God there's something we can do. Yes, I love it. Yes.
Such a big
I
deal.
hoped you were going there. Yeah.
So the next tip that I want to talk about, we've talked about the paper, we've talked about, getting the invite cards and the real
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
person. I want to hit a little bit on live streaming. Leaning
Mm,
into your live stream in this season is so important because we
mhm.
know that it can bridge the gap when people can't be there in person, right? We
Yeah.
know how important it is to meet together as believers. But if I'm traveling and I still want to feel like I'm a part of what's happening at our home church, a live stream is perfect for that, right?
Right. 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 I also too, and this is kind of the direction we went with the webinar, but when church is a little bit slower and your congregation, you don't have as many people there.
Yes.
This is a really good opportunity to hone these things. So, your
Mm,
live streaming, there is a lot of functionality that maybe you have or haven't unlocked yet. But things like,
yes.
facilitating giving, how are you live chatting with folks that are there? Is there opportunity for you to take the engagement a little bit deeper during the
Yes.
summertime
Yes.
when maybe, things are kind of on autopilot in person,
Sure.
but live streaming for a lot of churches requires an additional staff member, maybe a team.
Yes.
And so can you tap into that and really hone in and say, we want this to be excellent. Um,
Absolutely.
while we're focusing here and this is where we have a lot more attendance than usual. I will also say too, in doing some research on this, um, live streaming does not at all compete with in person attendance. So let me just sit on that for a minute. it is a sign of a growing church. Churches
Yes.
that do live streaming, I think the percentage was like 60 to 80% more growth
Wow.
when they incorporated live streaming. And to another percentage or another statistic, I think it was like 20% or maybe more of people will look at a live stream of a church before ever attending in person.
Yes.
So people may be traveling. They may be visiting your town for the first time. They may be there for 2 weeks and
Yes.
say, hey, we want to check out a church nearby. Let's watch a few live streams. Let's watch a few sermons and then decide if we're going to go. So just remember that this really is an important part of your growth
Yes.
strategy, in addition to a really critical way that you can engage with your people during the summer while they're away. But all year round, this is an important thing. So use this season to dig in and make it excellent.
Love that. Great. Such a great tip. And yes, it is very rare that I meet a first time guest at our church that
Mhm,
says that doesn't say that they checked out the live stream first. It
mhm,
is a great
mm.
way to just get a preview of what they're going to expect, or what they can and expect in person.
Exactly.
So that's such a big deal, and again, just keeping your folks connected.
Mhm.
We've seen people post on social media, watching church from the beach to stay connected.
Yes, I love
They'll
it.
put it on and in their hotel room or their vacation
Mhm,
home when they're out traveling, and it's just
mhm.
again, you said it. It doesn't replace that being there in person, but it
Right.
can bridge the gap when they can't be
Mhm,
there. Right.
mhm.
I
Yep.
love that. That's such a good tip, and I love that you said make those improvements. Now is the season to make
Yeah.
it better. Make sure it sounds good. Make sure it looks good, right? And
Mhm.
engage people in the chat. Such great stuff. All right, the next tip is to plan. We talked about planning outside events and getting your community involved. But I also want to stress a great tip for the summer is to plan inward focused events to keep your own community connected. Here's what I mean with that. Things that we've done with our church just to help our folks to stay more engaged and make more room for people to stay connected. That's the Now is the time that you can do things like a volunteer appreciation picnic or cookout, right? We schedule one of those each summer and they're always a huge hit. Like, hey, listen, we know that you worked so hard. We want to take a minute and we want to get everybody together. We want to feed you, right? We want to make sure
Yeah.
we've had the ice cream truck pull up and all the kids get super excited about that.
Mhm.
Other things that you could do is, maybe your men are gonna get together for an event during the summer. Maybe
Yeah.
all of your ladies are gonna get together for an event during the summer. We just did that. Or maybe you just plan one of your own, maybe one of your services you do as an outdoor worship service. Then you have like some lunch or some games after or something like that. Just to do something special for your people that are showing up.
I love it.
Um, all during your regular attendees, your members. It can be really special for them, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great one. I'd say too, just to uh, as a volunteer like care
Yes.
concept, um, it'd be real easy once everything starts ramping up, school, sports, all the things come fall
Yes.
for someone to say, "Hey, I can't juggle it all. Something's got to give." And if
Right.
you've not been intentional at maintaining appreciation and care for those volunteers,
Yes.
you're going to need them more than ever, and they're going to have to choose priorities, right? So
That's
that's
right.
just a reality. And so I
Yes.
think that's a great reminder to stay on the forefront of their minds. Remind them how much you care about them. And you said men and women's socials, and I know that you're talking about too, like members, but two, I think this is a really good opportunity to celebrate and praise and uplift your own staff too.
Oh, yeah.
Who needs who in the office has been there all summer because someone's got to continue to do the books, right? Like
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
are people, staff that are showing up and it's their job, right? They're supposed to be showing up.
Right.
But it's hard when there's people coming in and out constantly. And so I think it's an opportunity. Things are a little slower, right? You've said this before, things that you can't do for everyone, you can do for
For
some.
someone.
And
Yeah.
this is a great time to kind of say like who's here, who's consistent, who's faithful through the summer.
Yes.
Let's do a little something extra for them. I think that's great.
Great idea, and I didn't have that on my notes, so I'm so glad that you brought it up because that's something that our own church has done for staff. Like they
Mm,
will make a plan to do something for the staff and the staff families. Okay, things are a little
yes,
bit
the
slower right now.
families.
Oh, we're going to
Love it.
take all of our staff and their families to the water park for the day, or whatever it may be,
Yes.
just to pour back into them and let them know that they're appreciated when things are a little bit slower and folks are
Yeah.
traveling and that kind of thing. So
Yep. I love it.
that's really good. All right, the next tip that I want to hit today is to promote online giving. This is the time. Listen, we know that honestly, if we're just being real, is that we
Mhm.
know that summer can be a little bit scary when it
Yeah.
comes to the finances, right? You think, okay, people are traveling, they're not here as consistently. What is the offering situation going to look like, right?
Mhm.
And Jess, I
Mhm.
know that this is a subject that you're really passionate about, right?
Yeah. Yes, and, we honed in on this too, but automatic faithfulness, I think this is one of the seasons that it can shine the most.
Yes.
First newsletter going out, you should absolutely be talking about this. Did you know? Did you know? Is a great way to introduce this in a way that's not, like, in your face, or you're
Yes.
providing an opportunity, right? So, did you know that our platform facilitates recurring giving? What does that mean? And then you can have a quick FAQ. If
Yes.
you want to do a quick recording on how to set up a recurring gift, better yet, if you've got a pastor giving his heart, like, hey, this is the reality of our church. This is why we would love for you to take advantage of this feature. It's a blessing for you, it's a blessing for us. So, yeah, I think recurring giving, the season for that to shine is absolutely summer. And then, the idea is we don't want it to be set it and forget it. That's not what we want. It's an act of worship. But I think the convenience factor there, and then you can combat that passive generosity. You don't want that to be what it is,
Yes.
and there's some active ways that you can do that. And we recently talked about that in another webinar. But yeah, I think just reminding folks every week, even if you want to. I mean, remind them to give, keep it positive and consistent, like
Yes.
Kendall said. But hey, did you know that you can just set this up and then, this helps our church with X, Y, and Z. So
That's right.
transparency always, instruction always, encouragement. Our pastor did this last week and just said, you know, I want to just take a minute and talk to you guys about why generosity is important to me and my wife specifically. And obviously, he used her name, and just went into detail about kind of their
Yes.
testimony and their story. And he's like, so when we call you guys to give, and when the entire congregation cheers, it's not because we're crazy people that want to give our money away. It's because this is what God calls us to do, and we know as faithful stewards how much of a blessing it is to you. So transparency, your heart, instruction, and then just really crystal clear opportunities and on ramps to give, I think are critical when you're reminding folks to do that.
We know that this is such a huge deal, and I love that you said that, you can include it in those newsletters, you can
Mhm.
talk about it, use it as an opportunity to talk about it even on social media.
Mhm.
Something else that is could be huge, and you said it, your pastor did it, right?
Mm.
Highlighting why giving is important and the
Right.
stories that are behind that.
Yes.
But having those online giving features, we know that, of course, at Ministry Brands, we have a platform that facilitates that. And it's such a big deal. We get to share about that a lot. But I talked to someone just this past week, a customer of ours, and they just shared how it was making a big difference in their
Mm.
church because it used to be that folks were only able to give on Sunday
On
mornings, and
Sundays.
that
Yep.
was that was where they facilitated that. But now that people can give as God prompts them throughout the week, or they get paid on a Tuesday, they can give on a Tuesday.
Yes.
And again,
Exactly.
setting up those recurring gifts, it just makes things easier for your people, and also we know how important that is to a ministry. So I
Yeah.
love that. I love
Yeah.
that. I'm also hearing on this, you've mentioned the webinars several times. This is just a great time to let our podcast audience know that we have so many of those. Definitely check those out. Jess hosts so many of our webinars and
Yeah.
gets to talk about different subjects and things that are resources that are so helpful to ministry leaders. And so definitely check those out at ministrybrands.com. We'll link it up in the show notes, but
Yeah.
all of those are a part of the Healthy Church Hub, just more ways that we can pour into you and,
Mm.
invest in your ministry. And so it's a big deal. All
Yeah.
right, our final tip that we get to share, and this is one that I just think is just so much fun, and that is to again, it's to add fun elements to your Sundays. And this is one that in our own church that I've been able to be a part of so much, and it just brings a little bit of spark, just sparks joy right there in your community. And I would just say, look for ways during the summer that you can just have little extras, add fun
Mm.
elements, things that we've done. Literally, we've had root beer floats after service. We've had
Yes.
watermelon after service. We've done coffee upgrades to the coffee bar. We're going to do iced coffee on this day. We've had outdoor games like cornhole and things after
Yeah.
church. just fun things, photo booths. I mean, I could probably list off a dozen different things here. The key is not necessarily what it is, it's
Mm,
just that you're the kind of church that likes to have fun together, right?
yes. Yeah.
And I love it because it just takes the smallest thing, the smallest excuse to remind people like, "Oh, I don't wanna miss out on that. I wanna go and have
Sure.
fun with my church family on this day."
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's not, it doesn't take away from the message, it doesn't take away from the worship. It's just a fun extra that, gives people an excuse to invite people. It gives people an
Mhm.
excuse to say, "Oh, I can't miss this day. This is gonna be out of the ordinary," right? And so I would encourage you, summer is the perfect time to do it.
I agree. You're dealing usually with a more manageable attendance, right? So
That's right, yeah.
lean into that. What can we
Yes.
do? What it's also kind of like a little treat, like, hey, you came to church, you get to have this fun thing, you know?
Yes,
So that's
absolutely.
and then the other piece that I want to kind of speak to is I was thinking through like these some of these things cost money. Yes, so what can you do to lean into your community? You've got a congregation, right?
Yes.
And inviting them into to some of that planning and execution in this, like for example, you mentioned
Huge.
cornhole. So
Yes.
next Sunday, quick announcement from the stage. Next Sunday, we're going to have a cornhole competition. I don't know,
Yes, yeah.
and we're looking for X number of cornhole sets. If you've got a cornhole set that you'd be willing to share or let us borrow for the weekend,
Yes,
text blah 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 or come up here and talk to Kendall again because he does all the things at his church.
apparently, yeah.
So Kendall wears all the hats. But you can invite your congregation to help with that. You can also put in that request in the newsletter or social media, so on and so forth.
That's right.
Um, but to our church will do sometimes like an ice cream truck will come or like a
Right.
hot dog truck or whatever.
Yes.
And those are families that attend our church. And so it's a
Right.
blessing to them, right? And so
Yes.
it's usually gifted to us. So like we can go up and we get a free ice cream.
Yes.
But the church does take care of that family in that way. And then mutually the church a lot of times will gift some parts of what they're doing to the church. So
That's right.
it's a really neat opportunity to highlight maybe businesses or, um, you know, giftings at your
Yes.
church that people can contribute to help make those fun little different things on a Sunday morning. It doesn't have to all rely on your creative team or your events team or whatever. You can leverage volunteers, not even in the volunteer sense, but like for that Sunday, hey, Smith
That's right.
family, we know you've got a barbecue truck. We'd love to bless your family. We're gonna pay for X amount of barbecue sandwiches
Yes.
and you guys can come show up and pop up shop and people can learn about you. So I think
We
it's
we
a really cool
yeah.
opportunity.
We've even done that, right? And all the and you do say prepare people ahead of time that, "Hey, this, we're gonna have a food truck on this
Yeah,
day," or whatever, and their money, all the proceeds go towards the mission trip or that kinda thing, right?
exactly.
Here
Sure.
and,
Yeah, great idea.
so many times we've done just the free things, just a little bit extra, and the overhead is just so, so low to have
Mhm.
lemonade together after, and we're gonna have music outside. They're gonna, pull out have a guitar, or, the worship team's gonna play a few songs while we have, uh, you know, lemonade out on the lawn.
Cute.
It
Love it.
again, it does not matter what it is. It's
Mhm.
just something, just adding
Yeah.
those little extras, and just to give him permission for people to have fun, to invite
Mhm.
folks. It's going to be just a little bit different than normal,
Yeah.
and I love
Love
that.
it.
So, summertime's a great time to do it. So many great ideas here, Jess. I hope that our listeners today have been able to just pull one or two things. Because here's the thing: if we want to make summer an intentional time, it
Mhm.
just takes this little bit of just a little bit of action, just implementing a couple ideas, whatever it may be, just to make it intentional, so that it doesn't have to be a season of setback.
Love it.
Any last thoughts before we wrap up today, Jess? How
I
would you
don't think
encourage these
so.
church leaders? Do you think this is a valuable thing for us to lean into in this season?
I do. I think there's just opportunity. There's opportunity to, definitely hone in on your digital community, how you're engaging with your folks. There's opportunity to build community, like we said, with your staff
Yes.
and their families, and then small groups, events, all of it. Generally speaking, it's a more manageable amount of human beings,
Yes.
and that is a really cool opportunity to build bridges. Um, The other thing too, only other piece that I would add that we didn't really speak to here is what other processes overall can you
Mm.
hone in at your church during this season? I would encourage you to pause and say, what are we doing about our visitor to member journey? While we have fewer folks here, what can we do to tweak that experience to make it super intentional before people come rushing back in the fall? And so just pause and look around and have eyes to see, pray through what God wants you to continue to
Yes.
improve on, and who needs a little bit of extra love, and then all of the fun stuff that we talked about today. I mean, that's those things those things should excite you, but
Yes.
the other things may maybe slip through the cracks. So don't miss the opportunity to continue to grow and improve over the summer months. So yeah, that'd probably be it.
Great advice. Great advice. And, we talked about a lot of different ideas and a lot of different things. I think choose one idea and try it out,
Mm,
right? Don't
yeah,
feel overwhelmed by this.
start small.
Start small and really just lean into what God would have for you in the season. What makes sense for your community? What makes sense for your pastor, for your leadership, for your staff? All of that has got to, you got to play to your strengths, right? And lean into those.
Mhm.
And so,
Yes.
but I think having the heart to keep your community engaged throughout the
Mhm.
summer, I think that's where it all starts. And so, I would also say I love that Jess, you alluded to all of our platform, all of the different software that we have to help make this stuff. Don't feel like you have to do this stuff alone.
Right.
We are here at Ministry Brands. Our team is just super passionate about helping church leaders again to
Mhm.
free you up so that you have time to focus on the things that are most important. And so we have those end-to-end solutions for all the church operations. And so definitely check those out if you have not already. We'd love to be a blessing to you in that way. Well, listen, thank you for everyone. Jess, thank you for being on here with me
Sure.
today to talk through this subject. And it sounds like there's a lot of webinars we need to check out. Maybe we'll link some of those up in the show notes. But thank you for all of that, Jess. And for all of our listeners, thank you for being with us. If this episode has inspired you, if it's encouraged you, if you've gotten any little nugget of wisdom that you've been able to apply in your church, we'd love if you would consider sharing it with a friend, share it with someone that you know in ministry. And hey, we love reading your reviews that come in on the podcast
Mhm.
platforms. We want to hear how this has been a blessing to you. And it helps us to just keep encouraging leaders just like you. And so, again, hit that follow button if you haven't already. And until next time, keep leading well, keep doing what you're doing right there in your city. We know that God is in it and that you're doing amazing things. So keep it up. We will see you right back here next week on Church Leadership Lab.
This episode of the Church Leadership Lab podcast is brought to you by Ministry Brands, the largest provider of church technology software. Over 90,000 churches rely on Ministry Brands for their single platform solution that brings together all the digital tools a church needs. From online giving to websites to church management software and more, Ministry Brands is leading the way in simple to use, innovative solutions, all with the goal of empowering healthy churches. To learn more, visit ministrybrands.com.